We hear mannequins in the background on a courtship, trying to attract their females to their dancing little spot in the middle of the forest. Mannequins are a very unique group of birds found only in tropical rainforests. You can hear them popping their wings. Another hypothesis is the productivity resource hypothesis. And one frequent suggestion to explain high diversity in the tropics is that high plant productivity permits more species to be accommodated. We've been talking about this for a while already. For example, bird species often correlate with the existence of plant life complexity. The more layers of foliage, of course, the more number of birds you can find in a forest. This, as we said before, indicates that tropical forest is more spatially complex than temperate forest. And of course, this facilitates the appearance of very unique minuscular habitats for a lot of species to be accommodated. So, and this translates into vines, epiphytes, dried leaves on the ground that harbor dozens of arthropods, and of course the presence of hundreds of little insects on the ground and arthropods facilitate the existence of antbirds. Remember that we talked about we're going to talk about the antbirds later, but the antbirds are here and they're intimately associated with tiny little creatures that live on the forest floor. So those are variables that definitely have to be taken into account to understand the diversity here in the tropics. So the warm climate and the stable weather produces a year-round availability of nectar and fruit, as we were saying before. Nectar specialists include hummingbirds in Costa Rica, sunbirds in Africa, lorikeets in Africa and Asia and Indonesia, and fruit-eating specialists like cotingas, fig birds, guans, curassaws, and parrots. None of these groups, of course, exist nearly successfully outside the tropics because they're extremely dependent on a year-round nectar and fruit supply. Army ants, as we were just saying, are unique to the neotropics and their existence. I mean, the mere presence of army ants foraging on the ground provides the basic existence for the antbirds that we were just talking about. So these antbirds follow army ants, the swarms that the army ants make as they travel through the woods, feeding on arthropods and other insects, and as they flee off these insects, of the leaf litter we were just pointing at a second ago, the antbirds will be there waiting for these insects to be visible to hunt them and eat them. Without the presence of the army ants, it would be very hard for the antbirds to exist. Forest gaps, which is the one that we're at right here, represent a kind of resource. When a group of trees fall for a certain reason, light availability is higher in the gap and permits species to grow relatively fast. Many different kinds of plants, which are different from what you see in deep rainforests, grow in forest gaps, attracting a new and resourceful array of insects and arthropods and other creatures to the gap. So many species of birds will become gap specialists, and other creatures too. Other phenomena happen as well. For example, the high diversity of bats in tropical forests have made possible for certain predator raptors to become specialists specialist in butt hunting. Black and white owl is an example of that, feeding mostly entirely on bats, as well as bat falcons, which is another cool tropical bird that feeds primarily on bats. Certain patterns, however, suggest that the competition among species may be a component of tropical evolution and diversification. The very act of food capture, per se, could select for such specialization. So, when you wander through the tropical forest and you see different types of flycatchers, of course, you can see to a degree what I'm talking about. And I'm going to illustrate with the bird book for a minute.